Hello art teachers. This video is about the work of Dutch artist Piet Mondrian and specifically the role of motif in his artwork and also the project that we do to interpret Mondrian's motif. First, I talk a little bit about the artist, motif, how that motif has persisted for 100 years, and how we can interpret that motif in our own way. The first thing that I do in class is talk about some terms that we'll be using. We talk about what is representational and non-representational. This leads us to discuss abstract art. We're also going to want to understand the term geometric, and finally motif. And in this context, I define motif as something that repeats itself over and over again, not just in a specific work of art, but in the artist's work, picture after picture after picture. When you see that certain thing, you think, oh, that's probably Mondrian or influenced by Mondrian. I ask them, is there something you like to draw over and over again? You're always doodling and you're always drawing that same thing. Well, you can think about that as your motif. It sort of represents you and your artistic style. So Piet Mondrian was a Dutch artist. He lived at the end of the 1800s till about the middle of the 1900s. So most of the work he was doing was in the early and middle 1900s. About 100 years ago, a little less. Piet Mondrian was painting, like most of the painters of the time, painting things that actually looked like represented the idea or the object that they were showing. Then he started painting things that were a little more abstract. You can still tell that this is a tree, but it's kind of an abstraction of a tree in that it doesn't look exactly right. It doesn't have all the details and all the colors and all the lines, but you can still understand what that is. It still represents a tree, it's just a little abstract. But as Mondrian kept painting, he started painting things that were non-representational. And a lot of artists were doing this at the time, making art with a lot of geometric shapes in them and colors and lines. And he really liked this. This started to become his motif, these black lines and squares and rectangles of color. And he didn't just do it once. He kept painting different versions of this. Both of these paintings were in 1914. Then in 1920, he finally painted exactly what he was trying to get to. And this style, this motif of straight black lines and blocks of color, and almost always in these same colors, he used black, white, yellow, red, blue, sometimes gray. He painted over and over again. These two paintings are not the painting I showed you before. These are more paintings done with the same motif. He just kept painting that motif over and over again. So sometimes artists do this. They find one thing that they really like and they just keep painting it. He didn't always paint exactly that same painting. He tried different ways to arrange his squares and his colors, but he was still using that same Mondrian motif. So when you see something like this that has squares of yellow, red, blue, white, black, you know that it's Mondrian and nobody else, right? Because who else would use his technique? Well, about 45 years later, a fashion designer in France did use that motif, and he made a dress. And that dress became so famous, everybody was wearing it. And like Mondrian, Yves Saint Laurent did different versions of the same motif. And this was a very popular dress. It's very famous now, 60 years later, and there's even a Barbie doll with this dress. But that's probably the end of it, right? Just Piet doing his motif, and then one other artist copied him. Oh no. If you go on the internet right now, you can find clothes that are made in this motif by different fashion designers. These guys are in the Olympics playing with this motif. Pillows, shoes, there's a whole house that's done in this motif. These are all artists about 100 years later who are taking another artist's idea, another artist's motif, and changing it and adapting it to suit what they want to make. Here's some more shoes, guitar case. Here is a whole section of a city done that way. You can wear Mondrian, you can sit in Mondrian, you can paint Mondrian on your face. Even the minions love Mondrian. This motif is so bold and colorful, it's very easy to recognize. But this happens all the time in art. An artist will come up with an idea and use it over and over again. And then, hundreds of years later, people are still using that same motif, interpreting it in different ways, and making their own art, incorporating those ideas and also adding something new. So here's your assignment. We're going to take Mondrian's motif, specifically the black lines and the geometric shapes, and then we're going to add your changes. You can add any shape, you can use any color, you don't have to use his, and you can use any of the tools we have. Crayons, markers, color stick, color pencil, oil pastel. How can you take the idea of black lines and geometric shapes and add color to create a work that reminds you of Mondrian, but is also your own original idea? Here's some art that my students have done in the past. These artists all use Mondrian's colors, but one of them used diagonals instead of just horizontal and vertical. These artists added diagonals and different colors. These artists blended colors. Some of them didn't even close their shapes. They left white space and had lines sticking out everywhere. So you can see how they started with the idea of Piet Mondrian's work, but then they did their own thing. So here's some tips for you teachers if you're going to try this project. Use a heavyweight paper. Tagstock or poster board is what I usually use. Of course, Mondrian actually painted his lines that straight in oil paint. We're not going to try to ask our students to do that. So you can get this tape pretty cheaply on Amazon, and it comes in a number of different widths. The tape I prefer has the surface on it like masking tape, painter's tape. It also comes in a shinier version, which is made specifically for putting lines on whiteboards. I found the whiteboard tape does not stick as well as this masking tape or painter's tape. So I would recommend going with that. It also comes in lots of different colors if you don't want to stick with the black lines and give them a range of colors for lines. Coloring, you want to use a media that can cover a large area fairly quickly. I like oil pastels. If that is not convenient, we have used markers or the Crayola color sticks. Quick sticks will work well, but it's hard to get into little spaces. You want to make it easy to fill in a space completely and really dark, rich color. Colored pencils can take forever. Using crayons usually doesn't have such a nice finish and doesn't come out as dark. The other thing you want to watch out for is peeling up that tape. Something that my students want to do frequently is, instead of having black lines, having white lines, they want to peel up the tape. And I don't have a problem with that. I think it looks really cool, but you have to be really careful picking up that tape that it doesn't tear the paper. If you look closely at these, you can see where lifting the tape has pulled up the paper and marred the edges of the squares. But it often disappoints the students and they feel that they've ruined their work. So when they ask me, I recommend that they don't. I warn them that it's going to tear it up. Sometimes they do it anyway. Often after I've collected it, displayed it, and then returned it, when they get it back, they will immediately pull up the tape and they are usually immediately sorry. If you want to do it this way, you could experiment with using a slicker paper, maybe with a stronger, more resistant surface. That would still take the oil pastel, but it wouldn't tear. In these cases, the damage wasn't that bad, which is why I still have pictures of them, but a lot of them have really pulled off big chunks of the surface. Here are some pictures of my students at work. I have them lay down that tape first, and they love the tape. As much as they love pulling it up, they love putting it down. Anyhow, I hope this was useful to you. I'd love to see how it works with your students. You can post pictures on Facebook or right here in the comments. I'm putting my entire curriculum online before I retire, so if you need some ideas, check my channel.